Welcome to R&R Lifestyle. So, got something a little bit different for you today because I didn't know that I was going to be a grainfather. I just didn't know I was going to be one. I didn't. But stopped into this place because we were getting ready to make our own wine, and we needed to get some stuff to do that. And it turned out they make their own beer there also at this place. And so what we did was we started talking to them, and they let us have a couple of tastes of some of the beers that they brewed there. And we said, that is so cool. How do you do it? And they showed us the machine that they use to make their own beer, an Oktoberfest. And then the other one we tried was like a lawnmower type beer. Light and really refreshing. So long story short, I am now a grainfather. Okay. So I am now a grainfather, and I am going to open up this box. We're going to unpack it and just give you a quick look at it. We're not going to brew today. We're going to start brewing tomorrow. I think will be our first brew. Open this up. Pop that open like that. Looks like in here we got the glass lid. Looks like there's some dried yeast or something in here. I don't know. This is like a book, Mangrove Jack. And then the parts and all that stuff. This is the lid for the Grainfather. I'm going to set that right here. Here's the Grainfather right down in here. Okay, here is the Grainfather here. This right here is the last piece in there. This is a little handle to lift out the grain basket. So, I take this, just get the cord out of there, pull this up like that, get this out of the way, in here. This is, these two plates right here, these are for holding the grain down in there and all together. So they'll stay there. Box of some stuff that you need for when you're brewing. And then in here is the chiller. I'm gonna go ahead and stick this in here like this. Turn it. Oh, you gotta remove these clips. This is for if you're gonna distill like whiskeys and rum and gin and stuff like that. Okay, you turn these like this, and then this here can just sit like this. Take the handle out. Now up comes the chiller for chilling down your wort, which is the beer that'll be at the bottom. It's called wort. After you run all the water through the grain, which goes in this basket, the wort is left down in this tank. And then once you sparge the grain, which you'll see in that video tomorrow, once you sparge the grain, then that'll leave all the wort down there, and then you let that ferment after you chill it down through this device right here, which, let's see if I can show it to you real quick. If it's not too hard to take apart right here. Now you might be wondering what this little thing is that's up here sniffing this, and her name is Stella, and Stella Artois is my wife's favorite beer, and so now we'll be able to make our own Stella if we so desire. So this is the chiller right here, and basically what this does is cold water runs through a copper tube here, which allows the beer that's being pumped through here also to be cooled down to the temperature so that you can add the yeast and begin the fermentation process. So, and this would just sit up on top of the lid. Once the lid is back on here, you would lift this off. The lid, which is, where did I put it? I put it over here. The lid goes here. This just sits right here on top. So just while you're cooling down the wort. So anyway, that's it for today. Tomorrow we're actually going to start brewing, and right over here you can see we've got two things of grain right here. Both of them are different recipes. And then we've got 2 cases of 16-ounce Grolsch style bottles, and those are the kind that have those ceramic like stoppers that clamp down on the top of the bottle. So we got 2 cases of those right there. So that's what we're going to ferment, let our beer ferment for about a month, and then it'll be ready for consumption after that, after it's done being brewed. So that's it for today. Thanks a lot. Welcome to R&R Lifestyle. Okay, so as I told you earlier, I became a grainfather. So today is first brew. We sanitized the entire Grainfather, and over here I've got all of my, this is all my yeast that I'm gonna, or these are my hops that I'm gonna use, some spalt, some Hallertau. I've got my hops bags right here. I've got some other things right here that I'll use, some Whirlfloc and some defoamer. And then I've got my yeast right here. This is Nottingham yeast. This is the grain bin. This is where all the grain's gonna go down into here. And then this little screen right here will go on top of the grain bin. This is my, I'm gonna make a Kolsch. That's spelled wrong, it's C-O-E-L-S-C-H. These are all the grains that I'm gonna use for this Kolsch. Hopefully you can see these right here. I tasted them, they smell really good. The type of beer that this is supposed to make is a lawnmower beer. They call it a lawnmower beer. Something very refreshing and crisp for when you come in from a hot day. So here we got the Grainfather. I think I've got the water starting to heat up right now. I can see the heat meter right here on the Grainfather is at 100%. So that tells me it's using full power right now, heating up the water. I've got 5.5 gallons of water in here right now. There's little marks on the side. I don't know if you can see those very well, but there's little marks on the side here. So 5.5 gallons in here, and then I'm going to use 1.5 gallons to sparge the grain after we pull it out. I've got the little app right over here on my phone, and it is, if I can, oh shoot, wrong thing here. Let's go back. All right, here's the app right here. The target temp is 140. You can see that here. You can control this Grainfather via Bluetooth from your phone. It gives you reminders of what's coming up next and everything. So I told it what I want to do right now. I want to make this Grolsch recipe, Kolsch recipe, and so it will time everything out for me. This unit, you can see it right here. It comes up to about mid-thigh for me. I'm not a big, tall guy. Like I said, it's Bluetooth powered. There's the pump right down here. This is the pump for it. This is the controller box. Like I said, it's Bluetooth. And man, this is so cool. This is going to be really neat. I'm looking forward to this. So we'll see what happens. I'll let you know once we get up to the water being heated up what's the next step. All right, so the water's up to 149 degrees. Now it's time to add the grain in there and stir it up. We'll get the grain all stirred up in there. We'll put the top screen down on there, put the overflow preventer on there, and then we're gonna let this mash for 60 minutes. So off comes the lid. I'm just gonna set the lid there. You just want to add this grain a little bit at a time. Just like this. We got some rice hulls in here to give us a little bit of aeration. You want to stir it a little bit so that it doesn't turn into like a big clump. And this will get like a porridge. If you hear some noise in the background, that's just Here Comes the Brides from the 1970s. or 60s. Got it playing in the background just for some pandemic background. All this grain is what actually ferments. The sugars and everything in the grain comes out. What we're making right now is this is called the mash, and what we'll be left with after we mash this out for 60 minutes is we'll be left with a wort. It's called wort. You see down here at the bottom, I can feel it. It's thick down here at the bottom. So we gotta get that all up and make sure that we're not Never saw rice hulls before until this. I only have ever seen the rice. And we're using two-row barley in here. And I think we've got some Pilsner. Yeah, this is getting thick down here at the bottom. You can see that. A little bit more grain to add. All of our grain. Now we're just going to stir this up and get it all real well mixed in here so we don't end up with any balls. We'll put the top screen on here. It's all going to be a delicious beer. Perfect for the hot summer. Nice and refreshing. Glad I got this nice stainless steel spoon. It's very durable. I can feel the strength in it with the little rib they put in there. Alright, that's pretty well mixed right there. Now, I'm going to walk over here. The camera will stay here on this, but I'll walk over here for a second. Be right back with this thing, and what you want to do here is you want to put this down in here at an angle, and then once it's in here at an angle, oh, I put it in wrong, my apologies. You put it in like this with these tabs, so put it in at an angle and then turn it, and then just push it down till it's just over the top of the grain, like that. Okay, then what you do is you pull this out and you push this overflow right in there like that. I gotta pull this back up just a little bit. I want that just right about there. Okay, all right, so that's that. I'll put this over here. Now what we do is we screw our thing into here. Just put this on hand tight. Okay, just like that. Get our lid back on here. Alright. This goes in here like this. Actually, this is supposed to go in here like that. Alright, and then let's put this like that. There we go. Just shoot that around like that. And what that's going to do is that's going to recirculate. That will recirculate the wort in here. So we'll put that like that right there. So now we're going to come here to our app. We're at 149 in there, and the heater will hold that at 149. We're going to turn on the pump, and we're going to set the timer to 60 minutes. 60 minutes, oh, not 6 hours, 1 hour. Oops, 1 hour. So there it is, the timer's going. This is gonna recirculate that in here. We'll come back over here. And you can look in here, we gotta turn this on. Open that valve up there. Just recirculate this water through here, through here, through here, through here, washing all the sugars out of the grain. Now it's going good. So now come in here now and get a good look at this. So see, this is how it's gonna go, and it's just gonna wash all of that grain with this 149-degree water for 60 minutes. This is called the mash. So we're making the mash right now, okay? After the mash, we'll sparge it, which I'll show you in a little bit. Okay, so right now we've got 3 minutes left. 3 minutes left on the timer here for the recirculating the wort through the grain. I don't know if you can see in there. We're recirculating the wort through the grain. And then after this, we're going to turn off the pump. We're gonna lift the grain basket out. So we'll lift the grain basket out, and then we'll pour 167-degree water over the grain, 1.5 gallons. And what that's going to do is it's going to wash out all those final sugars out of the grain. Then we're going to let the grain just kind of drip down and get all the goodness out of that grain that we can. Once we got all the goodness out of the grain, then we'll set the grain basket in this bucket that I've got set up right here. And then any wort that drips out while it's sitting in the bucket, we can pour that back in. Then we're going to bring the wort up to a full boil. And we'll let that go for however long the recipe calls for. So that's where we're at right now. I'll try and record us doing the sparging. Okay, so what we're doing now is I turned off the pump. I've closed the valve. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this. We're going to take this off for right now. I'm going to set this over here. I'm going to remove the lid. I'm going to put the lid over here also. Going to reach in here with the handle, and we're going to pull up on the grain basket. And once we get the grain, it's heavy. So you're going to pull up on the grain basket. You can hear all that wort running out of the grain. We'll get it up. We'll set these little clips on these little rests right here, all 4 of them. You hear that raining down? That's all the wort that was in the grain, just running down, running down. We're going to let that all rain out of there a little bit. We're going to go I'll grab our bucket of water here. Watch out, Stella. What? This is our sparge water. We're going to pour our sparge in here. And what this does is this just gets all the last little bits of goodness out of all that grain. Last little bits of sugar, flavor. We want all of that. This is 1.5 gallons at 167 is the temperature on it. Now we're going to let that finish draining out. We're done with this bucket. So we just wait until this is done right now. Once this is done, we're going to pick this grain basket up. Once I hear it stop raining, we'll pick it up, we'll stick it down in here, and we're going to start bringing this up to a boil. And we're going to boil it, I believe, for 60 minutes. And then we'll start adding our hops in there, which is going to give it a lot of flavor and a lot of character. There's 2 pitches of hops in here. And then after the hops, then we're going to run our chiller, and that'll cool the beer down cool enough so that we can add our yeast in. If you add your yeast in before the wort is cooled down enough, you'll kill the yeast, and you won't end up with anything but tasty water. So we'll get right to that in a little bit. All right, so we're just coming up to a boil right now. We're gonna put in 3 drops of this anti-foam here. That's a defoaming agent. We're starting to boil over here. What? Jeez, that's hot. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3. Might have got 4 in there, but that's okay. That's a defoamer, so it doesn't foam up. Then we're gonna throw in our first bag of hops right here. It's a very citrusy kind of smell, and this is a hop called Spalt. So we're gonna drop this in here real quick. And just let this kind of boil over here, right? Boil up right now. We don't want it to boil over. You're gonna let it boil, and it's gotta boil for 60 minutes. All right, so we're gonna set a timer here. Set this here. This is the app that you use with this thing here. 59 minutes is the most it'll let you go. So there we go, 60 minutes. We'll let this just boil. You can look in here real quick if you want and see it's going at a good rolling boil right there. Good rolling boil. Okay, so we did our full boil for a full hour. We dropped in both of our packets of hops, and so now we have actually put the chiller on top of here. We've got cold water running through this hose. It then runs through these coils in here. We've got the pump on, and it's pumping the wort through here and in here, and then dropping it back out the top and back down into here. You can see the temperature is falling on the wort. It was 200. It was 100. It's already down to 85, and it's down to 84. You just saw it right there. And I've only had this running for maybe about 5 minutes. So we're gonna get this down to temperature, so where it's cold enough where we can pitch the yeast in there, and everything will get going on that. And then we're gonna throw it in the carboy and get ready there. So that's where we're at right now. This just hooks up to your sink faucet, which is inside our laundry room right there. Not going to show you that, but this is the wort coming up through here, up from the bottom, being pumped up through the cooling coil. You got cold water coming in, and then the hot water comes. The cool water that got heated up, cooling down the wort, comes out the red hose and goes back into your sink. So pretty cool system here. The way this just sits on your lid. It's kind of held in place because this little plastic piece right here goes down into the hole on the lid. So that's really nice too. It kind of helps hold it where it won't just fall off of the domed plastic lid.